Cree syllabics. Cree syllabics are the versions of Canadian Aboriginal syllabics used to write Cree dialects, including the original syllabics system created for Cree and Ojibwe. There are two main varieties of syllabics for Cree: Western Cree syllabics and Eastern Cree syllabics. Syllabics were later adapted to several other languages. It is estimated that over 70,000 Algonquian-speaking people use the script from Saskatchewan in the west to Hudson Bay in the east, the U.S. border to Mackenzie and Kewatin, the Northwest Territories and Nunavut in the north. History. Cree syllabics were developed by James Evans, a missionary in what is now Manitoba, in the 1830s for Ojibwe. Evans had originally adapted the Latin script to Ojibwe C. Evans' system, but after learning of the success of the Cherokee syllabary, he experimented with invented scripts based on his familiarity with shorthand and Devanagari. When Evans later worked with the closely related Cree and ran into trouble with the Latin alphabet, he turned to his Ojibwe project and in 1840 adapted it to Cree. The result contained just 9 glyph shapes, each of which stood for a syllable, with the vowels determined by the shape's orientation. After the 1841 publication of a syllabics hymn book, the new script spread quickly. The Cree valued it because it could be learned in just a few hours and because it was visually distinctive from the Latin script of the colonial languages. Virtually all Cree became literate in the new syllabary within a few years. Evans taught by writing on birch bark with soot, and he became known as the man who made birch bark talk. Structure. Canadian Aboriginal syllabics are unique among Abugida scripts in that the orientation of a symbol, rather than modifications of its shape or diacritic marks, determines the vowel of a syllable. Each basic shape corresponds to a specific consonant sound. This is flipped or rotated to denote the accompanying vowel. Like the Latin alphabet, syllabics are written from left to right, with each new line of writing directly under the previous one. Variants. The syllabary continues in use for dialects of Cree west of the Manitoba-Ontario border as Western Cree syllabics. John Horden introduced modifications in the 1850s in the James Bay area. These were standardized in 1865 to form Eastern Cree syllabics, used today for many Eastern dialects of Cree, Naskapi, and Ojibwe, though Cree dialects of Eastern Quebec use the Latin alphabet. The two versions differ primarily in the way they indicate syllable final consonants, in how they mark the semivowel /w/ and in how they reflect the phonological differences between Cree dialects. There are more minor local differences in orthography, shapes of the characters, writing styles, and punctuation, with some writers using dots or spaces between words and others not indicating word separation. Modern usage. Though used for manuscripts, letters, and personal records since the 19th century, the need for special type long restricted printed syllabics to missionary publications. However, with the development of syllabic typewriters and, later, word processors, control of the script passed to native speakers, and it is now used for schoolbooks, periodicals, and official documents. Cree books written in syllabics. Hundreds of Eastern James Bay Cree books were published by the Cree School Board of Quebec, Canada. See the catalog. Swampy Cree Hymn Book equals Nakamowina Amaskikawa Atatwiwiniwa by James Evans, Norway House, 1841. Field 209. The Psalter or Psalms of David equals Tefito Nikamowina by John Horden, Horden. London, 1875. Peel 738. The New Testament, translated into the Cree language, equals Osti Testament kai typlasike minon neshta kai pimesiueminar ceases k saint. By John Horden, London, 1876. Peel 782. Catechism. Transl. James Evans. Rossville, E.N. The Holy Bible. Transl. John Sinclair, Henry Steinhardt. Steinhauer. London, 1861. Bunyan, Pilgrim's Progress. Transl, John Sinclair. Toronto, 1900. Free Hymn Book by John McDougall. Toronto, 1888. Free Hymn Book by Robert Steinor, Edgerton Steinor. Toronto, 1920. The Epistle of Paul the Apostle to the Galatians. Transl, Joseph Reader. Unicup, Northwest Territory, S.A. The Acts of the Apostles and the Epistles. London, 1891. The Books of the New Testament. London, 1859. The Epistle of Paul the Apostle to the Ephesians. The Epistle of Jacob, the First Epistle General of John. Transl, Thomas Hulbert. Rossville, 1857. The Traveller's Spiritual Provision Calendar, S.L. S.A. The Handbook to Scripture Truth, Words of Admonition, Counsel and Comfort. Toronto, 1893. Friars, Cantiques, Catechismi, etc., and Lang Cries. Montreal, 1886. The Book of Common Prayer, Transl. John Horden, London, 1889, Adel. Printings through 1970. In Paleographia Kalandazasa. Sentender, 1995. ISBN 963-450-922-3